Our final speaker of the day is Derek Dong with the iRODS Consortium, and his talk is entitled Absorbing Logical Quotas into the iRODS Server.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Derek. I'm also known as the last thing that's stopping you guys from getting some food, so hopefully I won't be too boring. I'm a research software engineer with the iRODS Consortium and also apparently a mic runner. And today I'll be talking about how I absorbed the logical quotas then plugin into the iRODS server. So let's dive right into it because I don't want to waste your time. So this is an overview of the talk. Basically, what is logical quota? Why might I care about it? Isn't there already a plugin for this? How does it work? What does it do? I'll give a little demo and then we'll talk about future plans. So logical quota is a quota for a logical path. Wow, very interesting. You can limit the number of bytes or the number of data objects on a logical path. So for example, you could place a quota on temp zone home Alice, and you can say, you may only have 10,000 bytes and 3 data objects. Alice may object to only being allowed to having 3 JPEGs in her home collection, but that's for Alice and the admin to talk about. So this is just an example. And some of you might already know that there is a plugin to do logical quotas. So you might be asking, why do you need to do this? Or what's the point? So the new system is filling a bit of a different space and has some important differences with the plugin, which I will be highlighting. And probably the biggest change is that it's a passive system that's closer to the physical quota system for people who know what that is. And that leads to some trade-offs, but also performance benefits. I like performance benefits. So let's talk about the advantages. So first of all, it's a passive system. So you calculate totals manually. It won't automatically calculate stuff. When you push it up there, you have to run a command to do it. But this means that since it's not working through the rule engine, which the plugin does, regular operations that need to go through PEPs won't get slowed down. It'll only do the recalculation bit when you tell it to do the recalculation bit. So that's up to you. You can set the frequency as often as you want, depending on how much power you have, and more power to you. And also, the new code is its own system. It has its own code paths. I wrote it all into the server, and it doesn't rely on other stuff. The plugin relies on rules, on PEPs. It relies on metadata to mark the stuff that you want to watch, and you have to activate stuff through, I think, also a rule. So it traverses more code paths when it needs to do stuff, which makes it necessarily slower in some cases. So my new system should be faster. And to prove that I am not just talking hot air, I do have some numbers. I made a testing environment with one of our testing Docker containers as usual, built it from tip of main, which is 5.10, which is not released yet, I don't think, but it's out there if you want to look at it. And I did a very pathological environment. I did 100 nested collections, and I put a quota on every single one of those nested collections. So because of how this works, every quota also needs to care about everything inside. So the outermost quota will care about everything inside all the nested collections and so on and so forth. So yes, nobody is actually going to have 100 nested quotas. I hope not, but this definitely emphasizes how much faster my thing is. So that's good. The top level collection will have a quota of 10,000 bytes. So just to show that the recursive calculation actually works, the innermost ones have 20,000, the topmost one is 10,000. So when you put something on the inside, it should propagate up to the top one. And I have a shell script that sets up the quotas, and I have an environment variable that is the innermost collection, so I don't have to type 100 collections every time. So here's just a bunch of bash spew. So one of it is, so the top one is how long it takes to set stuff up. So this is the plugin, to be clear. This is not my thing yet. This is how you would essentially do stuff with the plugin. This is the time it would take to do 100 nested quotas with the plugin. It takes 3 minutes to set up. And then because of how pathological I've made it, every time you run a regular output, it'll take 40 seconds to put it up there. which is not a good thing. Then since this is also in a testing environment, yes, the resource is on the same system, so it really shouldn't take 40 seconds to do an output to the same system. And then you can see how it violates the quota after the third one. And these are the times for mine. I didn't do bash spew this time because it would take up 2 slides, and so it's really hard to read. But you can see that it takes 51 seconds to set 100 quotas, which is faster than 3 minutes, so a win for me. All of your iPuts only take 2 seconds now instead of 40 seconds, so big win for me. And recalculating how much, or recalculating the quotas takes a quarter of a second, which you didn't have to do with the plugin, so it's kind of hard to draw a one-to-one comparison. But if you add up all the numbers with all the iPuts and stuff, you can see that all the iPuts and all the recalculations take less than a single iPut did with the old plugin. So I win in this pathological case. Yippee. I so this is me showing the numbers for doing the final iPut, which is just the one that actually violates the quota at the end, and it takes 1 second, which is slightly faster than the plugin, so small win for me, but all wins, so. I also have some other numbers not caused by me. This is thanks to Tobias Yamcha, who is right there. And he very helpfully emailed about a week before and said, hey, I tested out your new system and it looks pretty good. So he put 1 million data objects and hit recalculate, and it took 2 seconds. And he did 1 million or 11 million, and it took 27 seconds. And that performance looks linear, and he says it's good. So I say good as well. So of course, here comes the what's the catch, right? So the catch is you have to recalculate all your totals manually, and because of when you recalculate your totals manually, they can drift from the real totals depending on how often you recalculate. So you can go a little over or under the quota depending on how you set it. So that may or may not be an issue depending on your environment. Okay, so how does the new system work? It's all just built into it as APIs. I have API endpoints for everything. You can create a quota, you can get the quotas, and you can recalculate totals. I have all the API endpoints listed there as to which ones or which thing everything goes through. Setting quotas and recalculating totals are admin only operations, so they go through the general admin endpoint. You can get logical quotas as a unprivileged user, but currently I have it set to you can only get a quota on one collection at a time as an unprivileged user. You can't get all of them, but it's still there. Also, currently we don't actually have any code in the I commands for an unprivileged user getting a quota, but it can be added. Possibility is there. Also, setting a quota and recalculating totals have microservices, so you can put them in an admin rule or you can put it in a delay rule to do stuff, or I don't know, whatever you want. So enforcement works by first you set an option in the grid. You type iadmin set grid configuration, logical quota is enabled 1, and all the enforcement starts happening. I put the enforcement points in these 3 API endpoints. So data object open catches most things like ICP, iPut, iTouch, so on and so forth. Rename catches IMV as well as moving to trash, which IRM does, but it's just a rename in the background. So you could put a quote on the trash. I don't know why you would, but I don't know. And then directly registering a data object goes around those other 2. So I put one there as well. Okay, demo time. Let's see if I'm still logged in. All right, is that visible? Cool. So I'm just going to do everything live here. I'm going to let's create a collection first. So it's there. And I am going to enable stuff. Set grid configuration. one. Alrighty, I'm going to, let's quota, logical quota, test call, and let's do 10,000 bytes. And then let's make a file that's going to violate that in one go. So quotas. You can see that it has a quota on the listed collection with 10,000 bytes. So I'm going to put it up there. And you can see that it hasn't done anything yet because you have to manually recalculate. So calculate logical usage. All right. And yeah, 1 byte over because the created file was 10,001 bytes and the quota is set to 10,000. So if I try to, I put again, it gets upset. And just for fun, I can disable the enforcement and then I can do the thing and it works. All right. There we go. So future plans. We were thinking about doing automatic recalculation after certain operations because Taro mentioned that people might be mad if you remove something and then you don't get your quota back. So then you're blocked from doing stuff and you have to wait for the next cycle of recalculations, which could be slow. We were also thinking about more active or preemptive enforcement, like we could make it recalculate in other places. This is kind of the same as the first thing, but just more expanded. And the third thing is that we're thinking about discontinuing development for the plugin because of this. And if anyone is using or otherwise objects to this, you should probably say something because the plans are to do so. So unless someone very strongly objects to the plugin being discontinued, we're planning on dropping it and just going with this. And finally, a small call to action. Please use the new system if you're planning on going to 5.10. I dumped 5 months into my life into this, so I do want to know where it breaks. That's it. Any questions?
All right, we have a question in the back?
Do I have to run my own mic?
There will not be. Hello, they're cool. How hard would it be to have like I don't know, write a pentlog or something for the in between the recalculations that you keep track of the operations that have happened in between? So they have at least have a guess or a more preemptive way to avoid like misuse of the system. So if somebody could, I mean, somebody could just put on, I don't know, 1,000 big files in between your recalculations, and then after that only says lower, it exceeded the quota. Would it be possible to add like the in-between step, like catching the operations that happen and at least have a guess about the things, or is that very hard?
Currently, we don't have a design around that. We currently just have it designed on you should probably recalculate more frequently if that's actually like something that could happen in your threat model. If you're worried about 1,000 huge files going in between recalculation frequencies, then potentially, I think for the time being, the answer is just recalculate more. We were, again, thinking about doing more preemptive enforcement potentially, but I mean, we do need to know where the pain points are first, or if this is actually a real thing that happens to people using it before we actively decide to do that, because catching operations in the middle necessarily has the same issues as the plugin does, where if you want to catch the operations, you slow down those operations as well as you check all the enforcement. So we're a little hesitant to jump on that right now, but we could.
All right, do we have another? Okay, yes.
Yeah, thanks. Do you plan to do any kind of soft or hard limits or let the user kind of a bit more gracefully know that you're approaching the limit, give them a bit of time, like a grace period? Do you envision putting that in?
a grace period for quotas. I think our design for that would be just the admin knows better, so they'll give them more quota, I suppose. Currently, we don't have any plans for adding a grace period, though I guess I could see how that could be done. I think it would be possible. I mean, like I mentioned, the users could see what their quotas are on a collection because the get logical quotas endpoint isn't admin only. You can run it as a regular user. You can just only run it on a single collection. So a user could check their own quota. There's no current iCommand to do that, to be fair, but the functionality or the possibility is there. So they could check themselves.
So I asked it actually because when you go through other clients like web dev or these types of things, right? So that when people don't run iCommand themselves, these kind of things. So I was looking for a kind of a mechanism or a way to make people aware in other ways. But anyway.
I'm not sure how a warning system would work. I mean, we couldn't return an error code or else it would think something failed. Okay, I mean, Terrell says the client itself would have to check somehow. I mean, we can't guard against every client, I guess. I think that,
maybe we can chat about it
yeah,
later.
yeah, absolutely.
Something can chat that after.
All right. All right. Well, I think that's it. Thanks, Derek.